Hello, I'm ready to start another project. This time we're going to be making some yoga socks. It's a free pattern on the Yarnspirations website called Peyton's Croy Socks Yoga Socks to Knit. And if you go to yarnspirations.com and click on patterns, then you will be able to search for this pattern. Just search for yoga socks. And it calls for using Peyton's Croy Socks yarn. And I'm using the color Burnished Sierra Stripes for my socks. You can use whatever color you want. There's lots of choices. You can also use Peyton's Croy FX, Peyton's Croy Socks FX, anything that is the same weight as this yarn. It's #1 superfine yarn, superfine. And each skein is 50 grams, 1.75 ounces. I don't see the yardage on here. It's on the website, I'm sure. Oh, here it is. 152 meters or 166 yards. And you'll need 2 skeins of this to make the socks. This yarn in particular is 75% wool and 25% nylon. It's always good to have nylon mixed in with the wool to make it last a little bit longer. 100% wool will not wear as long, and you'll end up having to darn the socks. Darn it! So, now we're ready to get started. To make the socks, you need 2 skeins of that yarn or another sock yarn, and size 4 DPNs. These are double pointed needles, and these are very old. Look at that, 85 cents for the old package. I don't remember where I got these. I think I got them at a yarn fair or something. Anyway, double pointed needles. It has a point on each end. You'll need 4 of those. And I'm using size 4. The pattern calls for size 3, but I have learned that my tension is always a little tighter when I knit in the round. So you can do a gauge swatch, a tension swatch. Just check your tension. You need to get 28 stitches, and 36 rows equals 4 inches in stocking stitch, or 10 centimeters. So you need to make a square at least 4.5 inches wide and about 4.5 inches tall, and then measure with your a ruler to see how many stitches per inch you'll get, and that'll help you decide if you need to use size 3 or 4 or 5 even, or even size 2. You might knit loose and you need smaller needles, but I'm going to use size 4. And you also need a little stitch marker, just a little circle. This is my favorite cheap little, I think they're called Cabone rings, C-A-B-O-N-E. They're cheap, which is good for me. You'll also need a row counter, because you're going to have to count a lot of rows in this pattern, so it'll help to have a little row counter like this that you can turn for each stitch. You can use whatever kind of row counter you want. If you don't have a row counter like this, you can just make little hash marks and count your stitches, your rows that way. At the end of the project, you'll need a pair of scissors, and you'll need a little darning needle, a yarn needle. It has a big hole at the eye so that the yarn can come through. It doesn't have to be a very big needle though, because this yarn is very thin, so you would be able to use a smaller yarn needle. And if you're like me, have a pencil handy so you can make marks on the pattern if you need to, especially since you're going to have to make 2 of this pattern to have a pair of socks. You'll want to write notes as you go to remind yourself about things that you need to do the second time you make them. Or if you want, you can make both pairs of socks at the same time. And if you do that, then you would need two sets of DP ends so that you can work around of one sock and then work around of the other and go back and forth. And that way you know they'll be exactly the same length from beginning to end. I've done that before. It takes a while, but when you're finished, you have both done. So it's kind of nice. Anyway, so that's all you need to make the project. So I'll see you in the next video and we'll get started.